Thanks everybody for joining us here. This month's ArcSite Essentials is going to be focused around the training and management side of things. So we're going to be focused on showing you how ArcSite can be a tool in your tool belt for training new employees, training your office staff, kind of managing your team as a whole. So hopefully you'll get some value out of it, just using it kind of in a different fashion than maybe you first envisioned it as. So we'll go ahead and get started here. We are recording this, so we'll send out a recording afterwards if anybody else wants to take a look. So without further ado, we'll go ahead and get started here. So so a couple of housekeeping items. I'm Andrew. I'm a customer success manager here at ArcSite. I've got Patrick with me as well. He leads our customer success team. So the two of us will be kind of walking you through these tools. The idea here is that we're going to keep it pretty short and sweet. So, if we finish in 20 to 30 minutes, that'll be perfect. Don't imagine it will go much longer than that. As we go here, there's the Q&A section down there, part of Zoom. So if you do have questions along the way, feel free to type in your questions. We'll answer them as they come in. So if there's anything pressing, you can just shoot it in that Q&A box, and we'll answer it. We'll also save some time for questions towards the end as well. But yeah, so we're going to keep these webinars short and sweet going forward. So today's topic obviously is using ArcSite as a training and management tool. So in terms of agenda, what we're covering here today is we're going to spend just a couple of seconds talking about why we chose this topic. And, it is a little bit different from the ones that we've done in the past. But, we'll explain, why we decided to spend a little bit of time showing you as our customers some strategies on training and management. We're going to spend some time talking about how ArcSite can be used to standardize or streamline your sales training process. And then using ArcSite as a management tool in general. And then we're going to spend a couple minutes talking about how you can involve other groups in your organization in the use of using it as a training and management tool. So groups like your production team or even your office staff, how you can use ArcSite and how they can use ArcSite in their daily work. And then at the end, we'll kind of show you where you can access these tools, how you can use them. And as a follow-up, we'll be sending out some links that we show here to you so you can actually access and learn a little bit further. So that's kind of the agenda here and what we'll cover today. Like I mentioned, in terms of why we chose this topic, of course, it is a little bit different than normal. We're not teaching you exactly a specific skill in ArcSite or how to use a particular tool like we have in the past. But we did, recently do a survey of a number of our customers, and some of the responses, pretty good majority of the responses showed that training employees and hiring new employees was one of the top challenges that businesses are facing at the moment. So we wanted to spend just a little bit of time talking about how ArcSite can go into that a little bit further. We realized that ArcSite, it's actually a pretty great tool in the training and management aspect of a business. Not a lot of people maybe realize that it can be used in that fashion, but that's kind of why we wanted to spend some time here today, is because we do think it can lend some help and can be a benefit to training your new employees or managing your existing teams, that sort of thing. So we're going to dive into the details about that a little bit further. So just to kind of hit home a little bit further here, a few examples of what we heard from that survey is, an individual who's been working with us actually said that they were able to reduce their learning curve of new employees from previously it was, weeks that it took to train and get somebody up to speed. And they were able to reduce that down to days using ArcSite. So obviously, it can be a pretty helpful tool in that process.
All right, guys.
Patrick's getting a lot out of us here. Apparently he wants me to talk faster. Another example is, somebody even mentioned, even a 70-plus-year-old employee was able to pick up ArcSite and start making quotes pretty immediately. So, there's definitely some benefit to it there. Obviously, like I mentioned, don't worry about memorizing these strategies. We're going to send out some links afterwards for some helpful materials. So you guys don't feel like you have to be taking notes or anything like that. So moving forward, the first topic obviously is going to be how to use ArcSite to standardize, sales training. So ArcSite is a pretty powerful sales tool, but training salespeople is a very difficult task, and of course can often differ from person to person. So there are a number of features in ArcSite that can help with that process. So, at a very high level, in simple terms, ArcSite can be used to teach and train new salespeople, and it can kind of be boiled down into a concept of, in all reality, you can train a new salesperson to start making bids and making quotes and doing the entire sales process. Really, if using ArcSite, all you have to really do is teach them how to draw out the sites, and a lot of the features in ArcSite can take a lot of that work off their plate, so that they don't have to feel like they have all of this administrative stuff to be trained on before they can be comfortable making quotes. So in simple terms, really, if you can teach somebody to draw the picture, draw the site out, and do that process, a lot of the other steps can be taken by ArcSite and can be prompted to the person that way. So again, at a very high level, the concept is, you can use ArcSite really just to, all you have to do is teach them to draw, and everything else can be handled by the system that way. Another strategy that can be used in training sales folks is, you can use previous ArcSite drawings to show, maybe common sites that you work on, common types of projects, common areas of concern or caution to be careful of. So, obviously, when somebody new joins your company, you want to show them, your company way, or how you have done things in the past, or just to get them up to speed on, hey, these are the types of properties we work on, at the vast majority of the time. So, here are some examples of how we've gone out and quoted those, or how we've drawn those sites out. So it can be a pretty powerful tool. Obviously, you have all those drawings saved anyway. So instead of having them collect dust on your cloud account, or saved on your device, you can actually use them as case studies. Showing the new salesperson, what a typical day in the life would be, or what a typical site would be that you work on. So again, not super apparent, but it is a interesting strategy to use if you wanted to use ArcSite to kind of show common projects. As I was saying, kind of in the first bullet point, you can also use ArcSite's products to teach about your company's service offerings. So those of you who are using ArcSite to make quotes and are using the takeoff and estimate software side of things, obviously you have a built out ArcSite product library. So you have all of your services and products loaded into ArcSite. So what a good spot to use to teach about those services to a new employee. You can use it to draw out a sample work site, and then show how each of the products or services are used. Obviously, you can dig into each particular product if there are price parts, or if there are tiered pricing structures or whatever you need to do, you've got all that information already built into ArcSite. So, what better way to teach a new employee than just using the tools that are already built in there. You already have all that information built into your products. So it's a pretty quick and easy way to train on, kind of your service offering, what types of products you use, how they're applied, where they go in the house, all those sorts of things. Those are already loaded into ArcSite. So why not use them to train a new employee? And then again, like I was saying, if you're using ArcSite to make those quotes and estimates, really, there's not a whole lot of need to train somebody on how to manually write out a quote, especially, if you're going in there and you can draw in your products and services and then show them how, ArcSite can be used to digitally, make that quote right based off the drawing. So again, the concept of the drawing pricing itself out, essentially. You can kind of cut down on some of the struggles or the challenges that it might be faced with trying to handwrite that stuff out or calculate all the pricing out manually, that sort of thing. So that's pretty straightforward. And then again, we have tons of ability for you to make some fields required. So especially for new users, if you don't want them missing steps or missing anything, we have tons of fields that can be required to be filled out. And again, it's a pretty good way to double check that things aren't being forgotten, which I know is a pretty big challenge for new employees, is you don't want them missing steps in your process, or if you have specific things that you want them to ask the customer, you can make kind of a checklist of those things. So yeah, all in all, you can make your sales training process pretty standardized. You can use ArcSite in that process to kind of better get your salespeople up to speed quicker. So those are kind of the overall topics. The next slide just kind of shows you visually, how those things work. So again, to hit that example again, in terms of drawing out example sites, you can see here, you can pretty quickly show, a new person what your typical site looks like, where you want them to be doing certain things. So you can see it's as simple as just, looking back on old drawings or, just showing them kind of some site examples. Again, the product library, inside of ArcSite is a nice tool to show people, where things are located, what things you offer, all that good stuff. So it's built right in there. You can teach somebody your product catalog essentially based on what's in ArcSite there. And then again, no need to, worry about them manually coming up with quotes or messing up pricing or anything like that. Just teach them how to draw out the site, and you can sleep easy knowing that your quote is standardized. It's built in there already. So yeah, those are kind of some of the tools used to standardize sales training specifically, and ArcSite and how it fits into that process. Awesome. So, and at this point, I think Patrick's going to take over in terms of using it as kind of a management tool, operations tool. So I'll let him sub in here.
Thanks, Andrew. So yeah, obviously, one of the other, there's a lot of other folks around. We're talking about the salesperson or the field person as the main user of our app. But what we find is a lot of people don't really understand that you can also use this in a number of different groups. So I want to talk about the management side of things just for a minute. What we see with folks out there is they use the tool to bring on these new folks and essentially teach them how to use it in their company way. And that's really easy to do with the ability for the folks in the field to upload their work, call them up, even have a three-way conversation with the client there, and have that interaction where both they're getting the work right, but they're also learning how to use that tool. So it's a simple matter of just And people draw it, they upload it, they call the manager, and they get them on the phone, and they walk through that and kind of learn the lingo and the best products and services to use. And that's obviously the interactive, but we see a lot of our folks who review the work later. It doesn't have to be together. It can be at the end of the day, going through, sorting out the people's stuff, looking through it, and then making comments, and then pushing that back down to the salesperson, and sort of being not only the manager, but that mentor early on in the process, so that they can more quickly catch up and understand the way to do things. And obviously, well, maybe not obvious, we did add the ability to run usage reports as well. So you can go in there and not on the individual days worth of stuff, but look overall how folks are using the tool or not using the tool, and where you can focus your energy on getting those folks up and running. I think I do. Yep, I have some photos here. Here's an example of that usage report that can be run from the user site. It's a new feature we've come out with, and as such, I'd love to hear your comments on there, because I know we could grow it. We don't want to grow it for the sake of making it larger, but to hear those things that would help you guys. So we're always looking out for those sort of feedback. So please feel free to reach out and use that and let us know. The other side is obviously just that the interactive nature, whether you're both on your iPads, whether you're in the office and you're simply on the user site, you guys can work together and make the best determinations for the project. And like I said, I have several companies who told me they actually use that for several months, where every time someone finishes something, then they'll call their manager up, and the manager and the individual and the client all have a conversation together using that same visual. So from my understanding, it's a very powerful tool, both again to teach them how to use a tool, but also to teach them that sales process that folks will go through, as well as to, make sure that the client is actually getting the best deal that the best project that they need. Excuse me. And now I am going to talk about a few other teams. I will make another comment here. We've got a great tool for folks in the field. That's where we've gotten to where we are. And we realize also that we can continue to grow on this side. So just like I mentioned with the usage report, I want to hear back. We all want to hear back how we can make this better for when you're either in that role or you're just wearing that hat, right? So regardless of where you are, how can we build this out better? I'm going to move on. We do have a couple of other groups that, again, sometimes I'll talk to folks, or we'll talk to folks, and they haven't realized that there's these other benefits. So in the terms of training, I think these next two groups, like the next group, the operations, production, the crews, whatever you want to call it, just having them be aware of what they can do, I think is a big part. They're going to use a subset of that functionality, but the subset is very useful for them, and it's pretty simple to learn. So I'm going to move on to the production side. Whatever you call your guy in the field, the foreman, super, crew chief, whatever, can with the app itself, can just communicate the daily updates, or if there's issues found in the similar way I was talking about with the with the salesperson talking to the manager, they can also mark something up, send that directly to the office. Whoever needs to talk to him can talk to him. They can come to a resolution. Or, as I said, you can just add in those details as the thing's going on and create essentially a timeline, to show the client, or to have as backup later on, or just to inform people in the office what the current status of a project. And with that sharing, it can be shared with anyone, right? As long as they have access, they can get to it. The other part I want to cover is the sort of the self-service. And this is, again, something that I have a misspelling. That's awesome. The self-serve side is that folks can go grab their own diagrams and material lists and things. And, it's not incumbent or required of the person who initiated the project to always keep these people up to date. So just teaching them where and how to get to this stuff, even without the app, I found that some of the clients are really, you find that the production folks are really excited about that, because it kind of takes them out of having to ask. They can go self-serve. So to that effect, it is, like I said, if they're going to be in there and actively marking up things, it's a smaller subset of the feature set. It's really teaching how to mark up in our tool. So you can add the site photos, write in notes, and then just share that work and how to access that user site. So whereas with the sales guys and the surveyors and everybody, you do have to, there's a lot of interaction on teaching, the whole process. For these guys, it is a pretty simple workflow, and we have, as Andrew mentioned, we have some links that we can share that you can essentially just hand off and say, go watch this, and they can learn all that stuff on their own, and then you can have that conversation. But I do have a couple of pictures. Here's an example. You can take day-to-day progress photos. So if someone's out on the site, they can show, here's what was going on. We dug the hole in day 1. Here's day 2. We put in the equipment, and so forth and so forth, and have that live within the project itself rather than a separate thing from the drawing and the production, the product we created. I also see a lot of folks who, the production guy, the manager, op manager will go in there and say, okay, well, today I want you to do this work, right? So it's not pretty, not meant to be pretty. We're not showing this to a client. This is, okay, I'm going to mark this up and send it in an email to my crew member, and he's going to pick this up, and he'll see what he's got to do. He's going to work on the concrete and dig these holes today. So it's a light, we don't want to be a task management tool. That's not our bread and butter. And you might have something else in shop, but even with other things in shop, this is sort of a light way of doing it. And we find that a lot of clients actually don't need a lot more. And so just being able to mark it up, and as you can see, I've only sent a portion of this drawing. They don't need to see all this over here. I just mark this up, say, send this part, and send it out. And as well, a lot of folks don't realize you can create essentially a list of materials. We call it a takeoff, but it essentially is, here's the stuff you guys need to put on the truck or order or whatever, and that's created as well. I mean, if you're on that subscription level, as you draw your picture, you get your estimate, you get your material list, and it's just another output. There's no additional work involved to get that. So let me go see what do I got next here. Okay, so moving on to Office. Obviously, you have folks who are going to be impacted before or after based on ArcSite, and they have a lot of other things that they have going on, and they're not really involved with it. So again, there are some really nice things that they can do either before a project starts or after or during, and it's, I think, in a lot of ways just showing them that they can do these things really can speed up the process and remove some of the difficulties that happen when you move between grouping. So, we have a user site. That's our browser-based site. That's a login protected site that anyone can access. Again, it is access controlled, but anyone who has access can access this and do a lot of either prep or post work in it. So we have the ability now to create projects from the website. If you need client details, those can be added directly there. So in the morning, the field team just goes out and has their projects and they're ready to go. We've always had the ability to upload PDFs if you use those. So again, people get in the field, they have the PDF they need. They don't have to think about where they're going to get it or whatever. So if you have the cycle, then you can use this as a way of sort of handing out work to folks that they can just pick up. I have a number of clients who use that extensively and live and die by that. And obviously on the post side, you can access, or during the process, they can upload, they can access either proposals or diagrams or whatever. And in case someone calls in, they can just pull it up and look at it and say, here's the status of it. Granted, it sometimes goes into another work process, but within ArcSite, it's all available very simply, and they can get it and make, answer clients or do things like that. And we briefly mentioned it, but whether it's the management or it's folks in the office, certainly you can run those usage reports. and then on the very mundane, just managing who has access to what. That's all done in this website. And it's once they've seen a couple of videos and performed it once, it's very simple to use. I'm going to show a couple of pictures. You can load in the PDFs, create the new projects, and here's a usage report. Not terribly exciting, but very useful. And we've actually already gotten to the end of it. The reality is that we have a very large number of video tutorials on our site that you can access. But we've also, for this session, put together a series of them that kind of hit those various different roles or whatnot. And these are links here, but as Andrew said, we're going to send those out, because a big part of training can be just handing this off first. We do training all the time. It's often that we'll say, here, go do this, get your feet wet, and then ask the follow-on questions. And just by providing these links and having them go through these things, you can get maybe 20, 30, 40, 50% of the stuff done. And then you can work on that more proactive mentoring sort of side of things once they have those basics. So we're going to provide all those links. Additionally, as always, if you guys want to reach out for more targeted discussion, the next slide has our contact information. Hopefully you guys already have it, but we're happy to kind of figure out, maybe this is too general, or you have a very specific question on how I can apply this. It goes back to, again, we hear over and over again, when we have high turnover or you have new folks, that's a very expensive process, and we really definitely want to use our tool and the resources that we can create to help you guys get that first training part done. And as always, love to hear how we're doing and how we can improve it, because it is a constant improvement thing we want to do here. We do have other training options if you want to reach out, but I think a lot of this can be, as I said, sort of self-serve and get you a ways there. So I'm going to stop. I don't know if we've had any questions or if there are any questions at this point.
Yeah, I'll give it a couple minutes if anybody wants to type in some questions on the Q&A side. Looks like all of the questions are taken care of right now, but give it a couple minutes, a couple seconds here if anybody wants to chime in.
And I'm looking at our list of attendees, and I know everybody except for one person. So I'm happy to talk to you individually outside of this as well. And I am going to reach out to that one person who I don't know, or Andrew will, because we have a small enough group at this point where we can individually reach out and discuss this to see if there's something this is prompted or not. Because we really do appreciate you coming. We hope these are useful. And let's take what we've talked about here and apply it into your individual cases.
Awesome. Well, yeah, looks like we are all set on questions, and it's just about 2:30. So I think half hour is plenty. So yeah, again, anybody has any questions, feel free to reach out to Patrick or myself, and we're here to help. So thanks for joining us on this episode of ArcSite Essentials this month, and we'll talk soon. So thanks, everybody.
All right. Thank you, sirs and ladies.